I'm joined here by Steven Caldwell. The Vancouver Whitecaps have a new head coach heading into the start of the new season, with Jesper Sorensen coming in to replace Vanni Sartini. When the Whitecaps were good last year, they were really good, but they had some times when they just weren't consistent enough. I'm thinking about the way they played at Portland in the playoffs as one of those times when Vancouver looked as if they were world beaters. And then there were other occasions when, quite simply, they just didn't create enough, didn't win enough games. And it was the same story as they exited for the second year in a row in the playoffs to LAFC. They've lost a few key pieces in the offseason. Stuart Armstrong, of course, who was a big signing brought in mid-season last year. Alessandro Schopp, Fafa Pico as well. They brought in Jaden Nelson and also Emmanuel Sabi. Are they better than last year? Is this the off-season of a contender?
I would say it's, mediocre off-season. I would say some guys coming in are interesting to see how they perform. Sabi obviously has played some games in Europe, a lot of games in Europe, but does he have the goals? Does he have the numbers to suggest that he's going to be prolific at MLS level? I'm not so sure. Jaden Nelson, glad to see him back. I think he can really revitalise his career, and we can see if he's learned and he's matured in Europe, and he can come back and put up some goals and assists in MLS. But when you see some of the players that they've lost, look, they're big performers, they're big personalities. Schopp has the experience, I guess, and Armstrong, that gave the Whitecaps, a sort of a confidence, let's say, about them. But I don't know if they're going to have that same confidence. But I think they're going to be a different team. I think they're going to be more positive and more aggressive. Sometimes they were that with Vanni Sartini, but other times I thought they were very negative. And the periods that you talked about where they were maybe a little bit inconsistent was because there was too much chopping and changing in the lineup. It was because they were sitting back a little bit too deep. Yes, there was a lot of game for the Whitecaps, but I think they've got to stay in the front foot all the time. So, the squad's going to have to hold up. But I think being positive and being aggressive and being a little bit higher in that press is going to be vital to their success.
We're talking about a Whitecaps team that has been a playoff side, and now it's about making that next step to try and get past one of the big guns in round one of the playoffs. I mentioned they fell to LAFC 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Do you think the change of coach might be the impetus they need there?
Yeah, it might be, but we don't know a lot about Sorensen, do we? So it's hard to predict if they're going to be better, but it's going to be different, which I think is what's been needed with the Whitecaps. Vanni Sartini did a tremendous job with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but I think he had taken them as far as they could go under him. So now it's time to give someone else a chance and to see if they can be more consistent and they can push themselves even further. They have the pieces. They have some outstanding players in MLS, but they've got to push themselves. I think to take the game more to teams, to maybe possess more of the ball and to be higher up in the press, to get the ball to the main guys. Brian White and Ryan Gold are the main players in this team. So I think if Ryan Gold can get in the ball as much as possible, then the Whitecaps can be consistent. And another player I'll highlight is Pedro Vite, someone that I think has been consistently getting better for the Whitecaps. He's got to be a leader in the team now this year. He's got to be the one who drives things from the midfield and, again, who brings a consistency, because at times he can, flit in and out of games. He's got to be there every single game, every single week, if the Whitecaps are going to be better than the last couple of seasons.
You talked about Jaden Nelson, who has returned to Major League Soccer after a time playing in Europe, and he will be hoping to force his way back into the Canada squad. Ali Ahmed as well, another player who is in Jesse Marsch's thinking in terms of that Canada squad and will be hoping to be in the 26 for the World Cup. Let's talk about both of those players and the impact that they can make this year. Can Jaden Nelson provide the creativity that the Whitecaps will need from him?
He can, he's capable, but, we've not seen enough of it yet. Obviously, he's been in Europe. Has he matured enough in Europe? Does he have extra added bits to his game that can come back to MLS and can be, we saw the potential in Toronto, but can he be the consistency that maybe was missing in Toronto now that he's back at the Whitecaps? So it's going to be a big season for him, because if he can do that, I think he can, cause a bit of, media attention, and he can actually get in Jesse Marsch's thoughts, and he could be a player with his skill set that I think Jesse Marsch might like. So, Ali Ahmed's got a tough season. I think Ali Ahmed will be in a fight for a place at the Whitecaps. He's got to win that battle. Can play a few positions, so we don't know where that could come. But if he can get in the starting 11, then we know who he's going to be fine, because Jesse Marsch has a trust in him already.
So last year the Whitecaps finished 8th. That was after slipping down the Western Conference because of their ending to the season, and that meant they ended up in the wild card round just to get into the first round proper of the playoffs. Top 7 gets you into that first round. Top 4 gets you home advantage. Is that a little too much to ask in terms of top 4? Where have you got them finishing?
I don't quite think they'll make top 4, Luke, but I've got them in 5th or 6th place. I do think that they'll make the automatic round of the playoffs and they'll be a little bit better than last season.
OK, it's a busy start for the Whitecaps to this new campaign. They're in CONCACAF Champions Cup action and they get underway in MLS with a Cascadia clash on the road in Portland.